we had 23 in our graduating class, and I think she probably had about 2,300 in her class. So I finished high school, grew up in a very conservative Christian family lifestyle. After high school, I went to Tech, learned the trade of building wrecked cars, restoring them, which I still do on a hobby. And had a body shop job. I had a body shop there in Swan, Kansas, making good money at that time. I was set. Got that eye was set. And my parents said, "Will you please go to 1 year Bible school?" And I thought, oh my. And I honored my parents. Back then it was the catalogs that you picked up from the pastor, whoever, to see what college to go to. My parents wanted me to get a lot of Bible education, and I wanted to do a lot of music. So I ended up applying to Grand Rapids, Michigan, for the Grand Rapids School of Bible Music. And I'd never been across Mississippi before that. So I got to college and found my roommate. And
that was not me.
Enjoyed that along with other things, and then my second semester in college, Ruth asked me out for our first date.
Come on!
I had a car. Freshmen weren't allowed cars, but since I flew in Michigan and my sister was getting married a couple months later, I flew back to school at the drive back. And Ruth had traveled with the college musical group the summer before to the West Coast and promoting the college. And they were going to have a party. One of the professors that traveled with them for some time at his home in the suburb of Grand Rapids. Not knowing that Ruth had dated my roommate in high school. And his dad was a choir director of a church in Detroit where Ruth attended, and her mom was the organist. So he was telling Ruth about me. Fortunately, it was enough good for her to ask me out for our first date. So it's just been a blessing to see how God leads. Because I was willing and honored my parents. Look at the awesome 52.5 years I've had this girl in my program. And it's overwhelming when you really think about it. Now, Ruth, I don't know if she said in her testimony why she ended up in the same school. Did you?
So there was a men's choir from the college that came to our church and sang, and I'm like, that's where I'm going. All men's choir. It's amazing.
So we've enjoyed life together, and we've been open to God is leading. Ruth, for her graduation, she had to have an internship in a church as a choir director. So they gave us a printout, because I had the car. We went to different churches. And at the first church, we walked in, very nice church, beautiful facility, large facility, and walked in, sat down, and walked out, and I wanted to talk to her. Well, that's that church I was, as a young couple. And the second church we went to, we fell in love with the church, and we became the music director, and we were involved in youth ministry, which we've been involved with in all the churches we've attended over the years. And it was just a blessing. That church added on twice while we were there for the facilities. And they wanted me to contract, and I just said, Sunday, someone at night, someone at day. And it was a split level church where half the basement was underground, so we had a lot of rampage we had to do for fair free codes and everything. But it was fun to be involved. And then we moved down here and got involved in the church here. Ford, I don't know how it all started, but the thing that's awesome about this building, anybody remember this building when this room was only part of the building? Several. We got talking, and they could use more classrooms. Construction would benefit the church, so one Sunday morning after the slab was poured for the new addition, which the slab would be anything beyond this room, we had Resurrection Sunday where instead of Ford preaching, we came out here and built the church addition. And that was that was a culture way beyond its time at that time. But God led the church started this building. Ralph and David and my dad and I and Ford probably built about 95% of this building. There's what we had subcontractors in for heating, air, and different things. So it was just neat to be a part of that. And that's one of the ministries that we've had in the past. We look at ministries Ruth and I have been in. Nehemiah Builders, anybody recall that name? Back in the day, Nazarene denomination, Joplin district had Nehemiah Builders. There'd be a 40 by 80 foot slab forward. And I remember Columbus campus, 65 men showed up on Monday morning. We had a devotional, and our wives were there. The wives went off and stained wood, and we started building the church. And within 2 weeks, the second weekend, they were in the church, a completed, finished church. We had the privilege to do that several times. That was really neat. And another ministry that Ruth and I have been involved in is New Life Ambassadors in LA. It was a Joplin district teen group that auditioned to travel in the Joplin district and sing, give their testimony for the Lord. Ruth would direct them and I'd drive them. And it happened that our family business traveled to several states, so we would figure out what clothing they were going to have, and it was always more recent before we bought our girls' clothes. So if I was in Texas or somewhere and knew I was going, if they didn't have the size here, we'd call ahead and I'd pick it up while we traveled through town. So it was just a fun 9 years of opportunity in LA. And what am I missing? She made me a list on my phone. And
It's teamwork, you know. I just told them, like, what are the things that are on your heart that you want to share? So I just told them lots. Anyways, if you think about, like, you can't help 50 years, and everybody asks, I feel like 50 years. It doesn't until we start looking at pictures this week. Oh my goodness. And then it felt like, wow, 50 years. But God has done in our lives, how He's blessed us. Blessed us with 3 wonderful children. We have a son who's a pastor in Yukon. He and his wife are married, Pastor Chad and Jen are here, and their youngest son, Colby, is here. They will shoot how they work. And then we have our oldest daughter, Malia. She's a school teacher in Erie, Kansas. Works at a business over there. And her daughter is in Colorado this summer working, and her son's working, got his first job, making some money. He's liking that, maybe not liking the work. And then Caitlin, you all know, she's here, and she's doing shared living with Carrie, who just joined her family. And then this morning we have, so all of my sisters are here. My parents had 6 girls, and then they had their boy. And I think we all drove Larry to an early grave, because he was the first of us to pass away. But we miss him very, very much. But all my family's going to be here today, and we grew up singing and playing our instruments together. And Mark had asked about playing our instruments this morning, but everybody flew in, so it's just too costly. They just charge too much. So we're going to sing. And then I have a friend from college. I gave her her name. Her name is Sue Gordon. If you get to know Susie, you'll know why I gave her the name Tsunami. Because she's wonderful. And her sister Rosie is here. Rosie also went to college with me, Susie and Rosie. And then Penny is their friend who was so kind to drive them here because Sue had a terrible accident this last October and she can't drive like that. That's her life.
We're just overwhelmed this weekend, to be honest with you. There was a facility that was big enough that all of us could stay together and enjoy the 4 or 5 days together. So it's just been a blessing. You look back 50 years, it's a little overwhelming, but it sure doesn't seem like 50 years. But
what's some advice for us younger folks to make it to 50?
I've been asked that several times actually this last week. One young woman, who's one of my physical therapists right now, she asked me, she just recently got married, and I said, most important is just you. What I have found is just grace. God gave us grace, and we must do the same. Just grace, and then not thinking that you're the most important person in the relationship. That other person is the most important person. They should be the most important person in your life. So too, you can get upset about silly little things, but it's not important. It's really not important in the grand scheme of things. And when you take those vows that you are going to stay together, before we got married, we said the D word is not in our vocabulary. It doesn't even come up because we promised we were going to stay with each other. It's not always been easy. There's been rough times, but I think that's having God first, of course. Christ has to be your foundation and the center of your life, and then just that other person, making sure that they are the most important person to you, more important than yourself.
listen to God. The blessing of me listening to my parents and listening to God to find the college. I'm married to a Yankee. Who ever dreamt that, when I was growing up? There's been so many times. We had the privilege to be self-employed for about 38 years. We traveled 5 states continually, sometimes with 3 crews. Chad became a pastor, but he didn't want to be a commercial worker. But we had the privilege of running for Sonic, Lowe's, Quick Trip, Payless Shoe Store, Taco Miles, and Braum's. And Patty used to be the manager here at Braum's. She kept saying, "No, you need to go to the office. You need to go to Oklahoma City." Well, eventually, when we were ready to travel, I went and talked to Bill Braum. And within 2 weeks, we were working for them. They did then, and still do, build 28 stores a year. So that was a lot of work for a small family that had a canvas for our business. And after 9 years, I was convicted. My family's first, not the paycheck. And I went to Drew Braum, who's 2 years younger than I said, "Drew, could I have your northern stores?" Because we were always in Dallas, Fort Worth Road. And he said, "No, Al, it's all or none." I said, "Okay, it's none." He said, "What, my money not green enough?" I said, "No. Not when I have a family, and I'm in my own bed 1 or 2 nights a week." I saw one in Chad's basketball game as a freshman at Alabama. I was convicted because God challenged my heart. I'm so thankful that I was blessed with a woman that loved God and helped in bringing up our children in God's way. And so, that meant 28 weeks of work out of the year that I needed to fill. So I bought a seamless gutter machine and had it shipped in from Denver, Colorado, and I went down to Tulsa to buy a trailer to put it in. Guess whose trailer I bought? These are just strange things, but they're neat things. I bought Billy Graham's last trailer. He quit pulling trailers and went to U-Haul type vehicles. So I have his trailer set in my yard. And it's just been a great encouragement to share how God has led in everything. And, I don't know. We just, I retired from work, got bored. And my wife said, your hobbies are expensive, you need to do something. So, I'm driving for Connections, a part of Fort County Mental Health. Now I'm my 4th year. And it's such a blessing, it's not hard. It's an opportunity to serve. You know, we see people that, to be honest, I wouldn't have my dog live in their house. 2 people that are high society and can't drive, and they pay us to cart them around. We go in 5 counties, and I'm based out of Coffeyville. Ruth works in Independence because of her promotion. But for 4 days a week, I get to be a servant of God to help people out. And over a year ago or so, I was given a devotional by Tsunami. And I have one on the console in my van. I don't bring up spiritual things unless my clients do. And here a week or so ago, I started on my 5th devotional, handing them out. I transported people that had suicidal issues and everything else. With God's help, I'm going to continue that and just witness for Him. So, every moment of the day, I've always said the windshield time in my life is my prayer time. It prepares me for the next person now that I'm going to transport. So, listen to that voice. Listen to that urge from God.